the lion voice. Tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the light. Lion voice. Christopher when he was born, rain fall from sky. Them call him Christopher when he was grown in airplanes he fly. They call him Christopher lion break the chain, weep not, don't cry. Them call him Christopher.
Glory to word, glory to sound, glory to the power of the true and living I, Emperor Haile Selassie I.
Recording in progress.
And I lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from which cometh thine help. And their help cometh from the true and living I, Emperor Haile Selassie, who created Zion and earth. Yea, I will not suffer thine foot to be moved, yea, that keepeth thine eye shall not slumber. Behold, yea, that keepeth Ethiopia shall neither slumber nor sleep. The eyes on their keeper, the eyes on their shade upon thine right hand. By the eyes protection, the sun shall not smite thine eye by day, nor the moon by night. Yea, I shall preserve thine from all evil, yea, I shall preserve thine life. The true and living I, Emperor Haile Selassie I, shall preserve thine yada now, and thine yada in, from this time, henceforth, and forevermore. Greetings and welcome to the global family. I'm Bingi Sean, also known as Kashawn Myers, here to welcome you to the reasoning with our esteemed brethren, the Judgmach Kwasi. We're here at the headquarters of Habesha, Ghana, in the Akuapem Mountains, and we're honored and esteemed that we have this occasion to have a discussion about one of the newest books on the work of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie. This particular event is very special to us because Habesha has been very much inspired by the works and words of His Majesty. We know that Haile Selassie is considered the father of Pan-Africanism and has shown his valor in defeating all fascists and evil that have come forward to take over Ethiopia. So we're honored and blessed to be here. We give thanks, enjoy the time that we'll have together, the reasoning that we'll have, and at the end we hope that you'll be purchasing one of the books that is forthcoming from the Judgmach Kwasi. Without further ado, I want to introduce to you the publisher of this great book, the person who has been instrumental in making this happen. That is Dr. Bookman from Bookman Express. Many of you may know Bookman Express from many of the black books. From many of the black books that have been published through Bookman Express. Duddy Bookman is also a
recording in progress.
Duddy Bookman is also a prominent member of the Rastafari community. So we give thanks and we're honored to have Duddy Bookman to join us. And then give thanks for having the insight to publish such a wonderful work on our Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie. So please share a little bit about why you chose to publish this book of all books.
Yes, give thanks, It's just His Majesty's works, because for a while I've been wanting to publish something mean the life example and works and mission of His Imperial Majesty. And, 10 years as a publisher, I up until the point when Kwasi introduced his manuscript to us, I didn't see anything out there that felt different from all the basic information that has been shared about His Majesty up until now, And I find that a lot of books on Rastafari regurgitate a lot of the same information, which is all good and well because you want that information to, certain basic information must, cast a wide net to inform the masses of the earth. But I was more interested in having something in Bookman Express Cat.
Recording in progress.
Just made it even that more exciting to be a part of. Give thanks.
Give thanks, Duddy Bookman, and it's a blessing to be speaking with you out here from Ghana, and also joining me here in Ghana is the author of the book that we will be discussing today, the one and only the Desmond Kwasi. I just want to say that it's an honor in so many ways to be able to introduce someone who I've known for over 20 years, as first a father, a husband, someone who's holding firm to the Rastafari liberty for the past 20 plus years, someone who's been my brethren at my side through the works that we've done over the years. It's a pleasure and an honor to know that this is one of the outcomes of the study and work that he's done to share with the world. As many know, the Desmond is also a lawyer, entertainment lawyer, and also the founder of the Jamaica Music Conference, as well as a board member of Habesha. So it's a pleasure and an honor for our brethren, the Desmond Kwasi, to be here joining us live in Ghana in the Equipin Mountains at the Habesha HQ with his family. It's a blessing. So the Desmond, give thanks.
Yes,
Rastafari.
Blessings everyone. First and foremost, let me greet everyone in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Honor, glory, and respect to his chosen queen, Empress Waziri Menin, and blessings to the Rastafari family globally, Pan-African family globally, and I here on the ground in Ghana. Beautiful rainy day in the rainy season here in Ghana, West Africa. You might see a little bit of glare in the forward, but this is all part of the ambience. So you have to come to Mama Africa to get some of this sip. You see the tree in the background. We're here at the Habesha HQ. You know, for me, there's no better place to discuss this work than on the continent where, you know, the writings really are focused on.
Give thanks to Desmond, and we'll hear more from you much later. But what we do want to do is acknowledge those who helped make this possible, starting with ARC, the Association of Rastafari Creatives, that is sponsoring this event. We know that ARC has been doing a lot of work to spread the word and give a voice to Rastafari creatives around the world. So we give thanks. We know that the Desmond is a member, Habesha is a member, Dirty Bookman, you're a member. So we want to big up ARC wherever you're at around the world. For those who don't know about ARC yet, make sure you go to RastafariCreatives.com. Check us on IG, Facebook, and all social media platforms to stay in tune, get involved, and become a member for exclusive content on the ARC website. What we want to do now is start off with a small discussion between the publisher, Bookman Express, and the author, the Desmond Kwasi. So without further ado, Dirty Bookman, I'll let the eye ask the questions, and the Desmond is here to have the reasoning.
Yes, so yeah, greetings once again. Give thanks for this gathering. It is a very special moment to be here at the nexus, you know, of the release of this great body of work, Haile Selassie's Ethiopia, Volume 1, The Rise of the Priestly Warrior Kings. I just have to start with a simple question, Kwasi. Why did you write this book?
So, first of all, I wrote the book that I always wanted to read. So, you know, as a young Ras, I came into my knowledge of Rastafari, my knowledge of self at Howard University. And, you know, I came into the faith through books and through reading and research, vigorous. At that time, the internet wasn't so advanced, so we used to, you know, I used to work at the computer lab at Howard. So we used to print out, you know, we used to find websites and we used to print out the little information on Rastafari in black and white, you know, until it turned into color. But in those times, I remember I had a stack of papers about just different clips on His Majesty on my dining room table, you know, because as I would print them out, I would just keep them. And, you know, my search, I was always seeing that they tried to separate Ethiopia from the rest of Africa. So when you're reading about these things, there's really not a lot of context about what's going on. It's almost like, you're reading something that's happening in a vacuum, or Ethiopia is not part of the rest of Africa. And and I always wondered what was going on with the Ashanti when this was happening, or the Dahomey, kingdom, or the Yoruba. What was happening in Europe when this was happening? How does this all connect and interrelate? And so, I kept compiling information, and what I realized is that the facts is even greater than the mythology around His Majesty, and that if we really could put all of this in context, it would really show the divine power of His Majesty, because without having to embellish the story, we already have a miraculous occurrence in the history of humanity. For example, His Majesty's mother had 8 miscarriages before he was born. So just by that fact, the moment His Majesty was born alive, he had conquered death, because he was the only one to survive out of the womb of Yoshimabet. Now, that could be a movie script, for a chosen one, or it could just be the history of Kadamawi Haile Selassie I, which it is, and then, so when you even just look at the facts surrounding his life, and you consider them, the evil days, which when I do the reading excerpts, you'll hear about there was a 3-year drought in Ethiopia, which up to that point was probably the most terrible drought in history, and when he was born, it ended it coincided with the end of the drought. So the coming of this baby boy, accompanied by the rain, the life-giving rain, him conquering death. So there's so much miraculous, without having to tell you that His Majesty is the Almighty in flesh and bone, and He sits on David's throne and all of that, which I do, hold fast. So I was saying that without having to embellish, I think the story deserves to be told in its fullness, and also with the passion of a storyteller. So you can also read history books, but it's kind of very dry. And I wanted to write a book that had a storytelling flair, but was still based on the historical facts. So, the book is annotated. It has footnotes and citations, but it's written from the perspective of a storyteller. So, that griot voice. So sometimes you'll hear thoughts in people's heads as, but it's all based on the facts. So I try to use a reasonable person's standard, meaning what would a reasonable person be thinking in this moment, and then extrapolate that to build on the story. So it's not just a dry history where we're just giving the facts. We're looking at it from different character perspectives. We're weaving in and out of the narrative. We jump back and forth between Africa and Europe, and it's a lot of different storytelling techniques that are used in the narrative and the telling of this story.
Yeah, and give thanks for the way that you told the story, and even as you describe it now, that is the thing that grabbed me about it, because it is a very academic text. This thing can go up there with the best of the academic texts on history in general, any history. But that griot approach that you blended into the academic telling, it suggests that you have a specific purpose. And I wonder if the question then is, who were you writing for, and what was the reader? Who was that idealized reader in your mind? And what is it that they're supposed to get out of this story when they start from the beginning and they get to the last page? What should they walk away from this narrative feeling?
First of all, the first reader I was writing this for was a young, handsome Kwasi Bonsu at 21 years old. And, at university, a younger man who's on his search, who is passionate about the chart and wants to know have some concrete ground to stand on, so that when he's speaking about, you know, Ethiopia, Rastafari, he can speak with authority. So that was the first person. So it's for Rastafari youth globally. I was a Rastafari youth at one point, and now, you know, I've become a man in the faith. So that was the first person, Rastafari family, which is the core, but also for the Pan-African families. It was for people who just have an interest in the scramble for Africa, that whole colonial period, how Ethiopia played a part in it, and also written for Ethiopians. I'm very interested to hear what Ethiopians think. I took great efforts to have the book reviewed by Ethiopians. I had Dr. Akililu, Prince Ermias Selassie, His Majesty grandson, read the text before it was finalized, just to make sure that I was not coming out of left field with anything. It's a very turbulent time, so I had to deal with the Oromo, the Tigray, some of these ancient challenges between the different kingdoms of Ethiopia are dealt with in the book. So it's also for Ethiopian audience. I'm very interested to hear what those living in Ethiopia, and also just Africans around the world, and those who are friends of Africa. So I have, as I would say, Bookman, many different publics that I was seeking to address with this book. But at the core, again, it's a young Rastafari person who is seeking knowledge about the Levity and putting it in one place. Again, the book that I always wanted to read is the book that I wrote.
Greetings, Rastafari family.
Yes, I.
Am I being heard?
Yes, I.
I, Rastafari. I greet in the name and the holy name of His Imperial Majesty, Haile Selassie the First, and Empress Mene, that dual cosmic of worldling the creation of earth, as typified in that blessed coronation in 1930, when for the first time the Emperor and his Empress were crowned at the same time in November 2nd, 1930, with extreme symbolic significance for I and I as a Rastafari nation. Yes, I, giving praise and thanks to this honor of being able to even address the family through the instrumentality of this Zoom program. It was extremely elucidating and enlightening to I to see the Ark and to hear of Idor and the other aspects within the Rastafari community, the Rastafari nation, looking towards the intellectualization, the writing of books, and the studying of I traditions and the traditions of Ethiopia and Africa and His Majesty, etc. I think it's an essential part of our journey at these times. If we are to set the times in the context, we see the disparaging nature of the so-called pandemic, scandemic, the COVID situation, which, as I see it, is being manipulated by the Western imperialist countries to, first of all, stifle militancy and growing revolutionary concept within their own metropoles, to try to cripple the African third world and the African economies generally, as we're seeing with the various coups, Mali, Chad, Guinea, etc., and also to deflect attention from some of the African issues which have been raised internationally since that World Conference Against Racism in Durban in 2001. And these interests, of course, have been towards repatriation, reparations, climate change, and some of the other things that are affecting the Rastafari community and the African community at large. I take them from Psalms 2, as they say, heathen gathering together and looking to disperse conscious and elevated thoughts and spiritual thoughts from their midst. And we've seen that with the destruction of all the Rastafari communities that have arisen wherever they have arisen, be it Pinnacle in Jamaica, or throughout the Eastern Caribbean or wherever. And it calls then for a time for I and I to consolidate this community, to consolidate this family, to consolidate this nation of righteousness, and to follow this great legacy that has been bestowed on I. So I give praise and thanks for being able to come on here now, and I give praise and thanks to ARC, IDOR, OSACRU, and the other institutes that have emerged in terms of, you know, the reasonings on Rastafari and spreading the knowledge of Rastafari amongst ourselves, and even consolidating our knowledge of it too. Because as once prior to I have said, much of what we know of Rastafari has come through the reggae music, etc. And what we know of Africa too has come through things like the National Geographic, etc., which recently have been questioned very much by such scholars as Ivan van Sertima, John Henrik Clark, Sheikh Anta Diop, etc., and showing us how, although they have had a certain amount of interest and sympathy to Africa, they have also still been guided by the European conceptualization which is entrenched in them. You know, so having said that, let me just say give thanks and asking for the ARC and the IDOR aspects. I have had contact with IDOR previously, but I do have ARC on WhatsApp, so that if the information as to how we can join, when the sessions are, etc., is put out on that WhatsApp, the Africa Rastafari Kingdom, I would be extremely glad. In closing, let me just say, hail up to Ghana. As the ones might know, I am installed within the Mpese clan, a part of the Ga traditional chieftaincy, as Ni Taparai Ayo Sabu Mpese the first. And let me say, hail up to Daddy Bosco, with whom I've had a very pleasant association too, and have been able to contribute on some of the platforms on which he has been also on too. Not only the Rastafari Council of Ghana, but the wider Rastafari Continental Council, of which he's also the chairman of such. To Mama Marina, Empress Marina, always a joy to hear the I and to hear the I thoughts expressed as towards Rastafari. Jabi, of course, we cannot forget. Umani Umani, the blessed greetings amongst us all. Rastafari.
Give thanks for Rankai as an esteemed elder representing Rastafari globally.
Iron Vice.